Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome everyone. On today's lecture, that is Theory of Production, Module 6, Lecture 1 of this series. And I'm sure after completion of this module, you will be able to learn the concept of production and the concept of production function, short-run production function, long-run production function. There are two types of production function we will discuss. Total product, average product, marginal product, law of variable proportion, and law of return to scale. So let us discuss first what is production. Production is transform input or factors of production into output. Production refers to the transformation of resources into output of goods and services. It can be defined as the process of using services or of labor or other resources to make goods and services available. Simply, production is conversion of input into output. Creation of utility is production. The factors of production like land, labor, capital, and all other things which can the producer wise to carry out the production called inputs. The factor of production which helps producer to carry out the production is called input. And the goods and services produced are known as output. Thus, production is activity that creates or adds utility or value. That's why production is nothing but it is creation of utility. Production is a process by which goods and services are created. It is a process by which goods and services are created. The technique of creation of goods and services is production. Let us discuss the production function. Production function play a very important role in the production. As already stated, production is a process of transformation of factors of production, that's called input, into goods and services, that is output. Here inputs are independent variable factors or independent factors. Output is dependent. Output depends upon the efficiency of inputs. Now factors of production may be defined as the resources which help the firm to produce goods and services. It's very important. The factor of production, basically the resources which helps the firm to produce goods and services, we can call they are the factors of production. In other words, the resources required to produce a given product are called factors of production. So let us discuss these factor of production in detail. One thing is very, very important. The production is done by the combining the various factors of production. When we combine all these factors of production, like land, labor, capital, and organization or entrepreneurship, are the factor of production. This defined by the Marshall. Marshall says that land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurs are three important factor of production. Factor of production are complementary each other. This means their cooperation and combination is necessary for the production. If you want to produce something, then the cooperation of each factor of production, land, labor, capital, is must. Without their cooperation, we cannot produce anything. So for the production, it's very, very important that the factor of production like land, labor, capital, organization must have the cooperation with each other. Now, let us discuss briefly about the concept. These concepts, for example, land. Land means all natural resources of the earth. Land include all the goods which are available to us through nature, forest, fishery, mining. All the resources, sunshine, are available on the land. All on this earth is called land. And for the use of land, we'll pay the rent. Sorry. The payment made to the land is called rent. Second, labor. All physical or mental human and effort involved in the production is called labor. And for the use of labor, we pay wages. The payment made to the labor is called wage. Third is capital. Buildings, machinery, and equipment not used for its own sake but for the contribution to make the production is called capital. Capital for the purpose of investment, for the purpose of production. Any, for example, buildings, machinery, equipment, etc., when we use for the further production, for the further production, it's called capital. And the reward, the payment made to the capital, is known as interest. Entrepreneurship, which is one of the important factors of production, is the talent to develop the products and the processes, and to organize the factor of production to make goods and services available. And the payment made to the entrepreneurship is known as the profit. So let us discuss the production function. Production is the process by which input transferred into output. The process by which inputs transformed into output is called production. And you know that thus there is a relation between input and output. Production is a relation between input and output. But the functional relationship between input and output is known as the production function. The functional relationship, a technical relationship between input and output called production function. Production function basically can be expressed in an equation in which output is dependent variable and inputs are independent variable. Inputs like land, labor, capital, and labor and capital play an important role in production function. According to Cobb-Douglas production function, labor contribute more than 3/4 of a product, whereas capital only 1/4. 3/4 of the labor, but both are very, very important, labor as well as capital. So this can be expressed in equation. Production function can be expressed in case of the graph, where on the x-axis we have independent factor labor and capital, and on the y-axis we have dependent factor on production. Here the equation is expressed as follows. Q is the function of L, K, T and N. Q means quantity, output, L labor, K capital, T level of technology, N other input employed in the production. So this Q is the function of these factors of production, and this is the technical relationship between quantity, and this Q means output, and these are inputs, labor, capital and technology. Quantity depends upon these factor of production. There are two important production functions. One is the short-run production function and the long-run production function. Short-run means when the quantity of one input varies while other inputs remain constant. Short-run is a time period when some factor of production will be variable. At least one labor will be variable, other factor will remain constant. Whereas long run, in which sufficient time to change all the factor of production. All factor of production are variable, will variable in the long run. In the long run, production function inputs, all inputs are variable. But short run is a time period when producer can produce the quantity or output up to his existing capacity. But in the long run, the demand and supply can be adjusted according to the demand, according to the requirement, because of all factor of production variable. Short run, law of variable proportion will be applicable. And in the long run, there is a law of returns to scale. When whole scale will change under the law of return to scale. We'll discuss in coming slides. Now, short run, only one variable input like labor and one fixed, that is capital. I have stated that labor and capital are important factor of production. Thus, firm can increase output by using more of labor in the short run. Because of capital, here we assume is constant. Capital cannot be increased in the short run. Increase the total capacity on possible in the long run. In the long run, because of all factor of production variable, so total capacity of the producer can be utilized. All factor of production will be variable in the long run. It is associated with a change in the scale of production. Whole scale of production will change in the long run. The period of time varies according to the firm and the industry. Period of time varies according to firm and industry. Now, the production functions are based on some assumptions. Assumptions play a very important role in all theories, as we know, economic theories, as we know. First, the level of technology remain constant. Second, the firm uses its input at maximum level of efficiency. Third, we assume it relates with a particular units of time. Fourth, we assume a change in any of the variable factor products produces a corresponding change in the output. And last one, the inputs are divisible into the most viable unit. Means inputs are used and inputs can be used according or as per the requirement of the producer. Now let us discuss the use of production function. Production function helps to determine the least cost factor combination. You know that the most important objective of the firm or organization is to maximize the profit. No doubt. Like Baumol says that sale maximization can be main objective. There can be another objective like maybe sustainability, maybe production output maximization, but ultimate objective of the firm is to maximize the profit. So how the profit can maximize? By minimizing the cost. So production function is a guide to the entrepreneur, to the organization, to determine the least cost combination of factor of combinations. Least cost combination, cost factor combination. Profit can be maximized only by minimizing the cost of production. In order to minimize the cost of production, inputs are to be substituted. When firm want to minimize the cost of production, then inputs are to be substituted. And how the factor of production can be substituted with one another place, that is, this production function will guide to the producers. Second, it helps to determine the optimum level of output. Optimum level of output. The production function helps to determine the optimum level of output from a given quantity of input. In other words, it helps to arrive the producer's equilibrium. Producer's equilibrium, the place where producers will get maximum satisfaction with his given the inputs, say labor and capital. So, third, it enables to plan the production. The production function helps to the entrepreneur or management to plan the production. How much to produce, where to produce, which technique of production is most preferable. This will be the production function will help to decide all these things. Fourth, it helps in decision making. Production function is very useful to the management to take decision regarding the cost and output. Cost control and cost reduction is very, very important, and the production function will help that how to control the cost and how to reduce the cost. So this is simply we can say that the production function helps both in the short run and long run of decision making process. So let us discuss that some more important concept which will be used in the coming slide, that is law in the law of variable proportion and law of return to scale. And you know that when we discuss the production function or production concept of production or theory of production, we must know what is the total product, average product, marginal product. So first, total product refers to the total amount of output produced using a given quantity of the labor, assuming other factor to be constant. As input increases, the total output also increases. Total output means entire production by using the given input during a given period of time. Total amount of output produced by using the factor of production is called as total product. We denote it TP in coming slide. Now, average product means per unit output. Can be defined as the total product per unit of factors employed in the production process. Mathematically, this can be expressed: average product is equal to total product divided by numbers of factor employed. Total product, say 100 unit is the total product, and number of units of factor employed, say labor 20. So 100 divided by 20 is 5, means average product is 5. Total product divided by number of units employed to produce that commodity. Now, marginal. Gibbons has put forward this concept of marginal. Marginal product can be defined as the extra product added by the one extra unit of output, so unit of input, while other inputs are to be constant. Additional input. When you use one more unit of input, and as a result there will be change in output, is called marginal product. Additional output due to change in one more unit of input. Change in total output, say delta Q, resulting from the change extra unit of labor. Here, marginal product, mathematically we can say change in quantity due to change in labor. Change in quantity due to change in labor. Delta Q divided by delta L, marginal product, additional product. Now let us discuss the laws of production. Laws of production. Production function we have discussed shows the relationship between input and output. Technical relationship between input and output is the production function. But the laws of production shows the relationship between additional input and additional output. Try to understand this concept. The law of proportion shows, law of production shows the relationship between additional input and additional output, whereas production function simply explain the relationship between input and output. Here, relationship between additional input and additional output we can discuss in the laws of production. It describes the ways which are technically possible to increase the level of production. How the producer can increase the production. What are the ways to increase, technically possible to increase the level of production is laws of production. Laws of production. There are two important laws in economics. One is the law of variable proportion. Law of variable proportion. It will be applicable in the short term to analyze the production in the short run. Through law of variable proportion, we discuss the production during the short period. Short means when at least one factor of production, say labor, is variable and other factor remain constant, including capital. Law of returns to scale. Returns to scale when whole scale of the production will change or can be changed. When all factor of production are variable, there is no constant fact to analyze the production function in the longer run. Long run means all factor of production are variable, including capital. There is no fixed factor of production. Now let us discuss in detail the concept of law of variable proportion. What is law of variable proportion? The law of variable proportion occupies very important place in economic theory. It plays a very important role in economic theory or in economics. It describes the production function with one variable while the quantity of other factor of production are fixed. Here we assume that say labor is only the variable factor and other factors are constant. And when we increase the variable factor, say labor, by assuming the other factor of production remain constant, how the output will increases. We'll explain. The law of variable proportion shows the production function with one input variable while keeping the other input or other factor constant. See, this law states that if one factor is used more and more, keeping the other factor constant, the total output will increase at the increasing rate in the beginning, then it will increase at the diminishing rate, and eventually it decreases absolutely. Meaning why? When we use more and more unit of a labor or one variable factors, the production will increase at the increasing rate in the beginning stage of the production, and it will, after reaching its and after that it will increase at the diminishing rate. It will increase but at the diminishing rate, and finally it will reach the maximum point and start decreasing. Law of variable proportion, simply you can say that as a proportion of factors it changed, the total output first increase more than proportionately. The proportion in which we change the input, we change the variable factors, the output will increase more than that proportion, and then equiproportionately, and finally less than proportionately, the proportion at which we increase the labor of units of labor or the variable factors, output will not increase at the same proportion. So this law of variable proportion tells us that how the total output is affected by the change of proportion of factor used. And the classical economists called this law the law of diminishing return. Classical economists call this law of diminishing marginal return. Law of diminishing marginal return means we get less and less extra output with the addition of an input, holding others' input constant. According to law of diminishing return means returns start diminishing. We get less and less extra output with the addition to an input when we assume that other factors of production are constant. It means that marginal product of each unit of input declines as output increases. So this law is based on some assumptions, and when we assume these assumptions, only then this law will be applicable. The main assumptions are: first, one of the factors is variable while other are fixed. We have to assume that there is only one factor of production is variable, while all factors, say labor, is variable and other factors are constant. Second assumptions: all inputs are variable factors, homogeneous or equally efficient. We have to assume that the factors which are variable, say labor, they are homogeneous in nature, they are equally efficient, they have equal quality, they have equal capacity to produce the commodity. So homogeneous, which is although the limitation of this law that all the factor of production, say labor, cannot be homogeneous, but we have to assume. Similarly, there is no change in techniques of production, although again this is the limitation. How is it possible that there is no change in techniques of production? But we have to assume that there is no change in techniques of production when we are discussing this law of variable proportion. This is another important assumption, that there is no change in technology. Then factor of production can be used in different proportion as per the requirement. And lastly, the law operates in the short run. This law of variable proportion operates in the short run only. In the long run, this is not applicable. In the long run, this law will not operate. Now, let us explain with the help of this table. See that first column is number of labor units. Here we try to discuss the relationship between total product, average product and marginal product through this table. Here number of labor units we are using, increasing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and so on. This factor of production is variable. Total product is increasing. When we use 1, then 2, then total product will be 5, 3, then 9, 4, then 12, 5th, then 14, 6th, then 15, 7, 15, 8, then 14. Here the output will be maximum, and when you change the labor 6 to 7, the output remains constant. There is no change. And if you use more unit of labor, then it start decreasing, means cost start increasing. So comparatively, the output start decreasing. So total product means entire output, the product, whereas marginal is change in total production divided by change in labor. Delta TP means total product divided by delta L. And average is total product divided by labor. Now, marginal product means extra change in total product due to change in labor. For example, if you increase 1 to 2, there is a change 2 to 5. 5 minus 2, 3. Change in marginal product is 3. When 2 to 3, then output 5 to 9, it will 9 minus 5, total change is 4. 4 to 5, 3 to 4, 9 to 12, then 3. 4 to 5, total output increase 12 to 14 means 2. And similarly, 5 to 6, then 14 to 15, only 1. 6 to 7, 15 to 15, it means 0. Marginal product 0. And then 8, 7 to 8, then 15 to 14 be negative. So marginal product can be 0, it can be negative also. But average product will never 0. Marginal total product never will be 0. Although it start decreasing after reaching maximum point, but total product cannot be 0, cannot be negative. Similarly, average product will also be negative, not negative. Average means per unit output. Total product divided by the number of units used at labor. 2 divided 1, 2. 5 divided by 2, 2.5. 9 divided by 3 means 3. 12 divided by 4, 3. 14 divided by 5, 2.8. Here, the point is to be noted that earlier it is increasing 2, 2.5, 3, and 3, and then start decreasing. Average product also start decreasing after a certain point. Then 2.5. Then when 7 to 8, it is 1.7. So let us discuss with the help of graph the relationship between total product, marginal product, and average product. Total product, see the orange, TP, total product. It increasing with the increase of number of units. Say here on x-axis we have labor and y-axis we have capital, or production. Here production, here labor, input and output. Input on x-axis, output y-axis. Output is dependent on input. This production depends upon inputs of labor. So see here the output is increasing with increase of output, and this input in the up to here, it increasing at very increasing rate. A point is this, here A1 is, that MP is maximum. This up to B, this is the first stage. This is the first stage. And from here to here, this is the second stage. We'll discuss with the help of next step the graph in detail. And after see, this is third stage. Second stage is known as rational stage. A rational stage means producer must produce in this stage. Third stage is irrational stage. First stage also irrational stage means producer should not stop here to produce the quantity. Producer must go beyond this. But after this is, if the producer continue to increase the units of labor, then the total output start decreasing. So this is again irrational stage. So producer should not produce the quantity here. Now, in the first stage or up to B, the quantity is increasing at very increasing rate. Marginal product also increasing, but it reach maximum point A1 and it start decreasing. But average product is still increasing. Here AP is increasing, MP is increasing, but MP is more than AP. MP means marginal product is more than average product. It starts decreasing. And when average product is equal to marginal product, this is the end of the first stage, or this is the the point where the beyond this point the stage 2 started, and this B1 intersection of AP and max, here AP is maximum, B1 is a point where AP is maximum, and after this B1, now AP average product is more than, it is higher as compared to MP, and production increase but at the diminishing rate. Now this C is the maximum output when MP is 0, and beyond this, when total product start decreasing, margin product will be decreasing. Average product is decreasing, margin product is decreasing, but margin product is now negative, but average product is still decreasing but is positive. In this stage, margin product is positive. So let us discuss briefly. You can say in the first stage, AP, MP, TP with variable factors, with variable input, which reflect increasing efficiency of labor. In the second stage, it starts with the intersection of this AP and MP, decrease AP, MP, but total output is still increasing. And in the third stage, MP is negative and TP start declining. And TP start declining. So let us discuss. The main observation can be seen that the total product is increasing with the increase in output. The rate of increase start decreasing after reaching the point A, which it can be observed from the TP graph as well, we have already discussed. Total product is rising initial stage and start declining after the reaching a point. So the three stages we'll discuss now with the help of this diagram, three stages diagram. First stage, second stage, and third stage. Now I have already stated this is up to here, this first stage. Here MP is maximum. Here the point AP and MP is equal. Up to here is the first stage. The first stage is rational stage. Irrational stage, producer should not stay here. Producer should go beyond, use more L, say L to L3, OL is the point of inflection. This is the increasing marginal returns. Up to here, in the first stage, we have increasing marginal returns. And in the second stage, diminishing marginal returns. And third stage, we have the negative marginal returns. In the first stage, the total output total product increasing at an increasing rate, and this continues till the end of the first stage. Average product is also increasing and reaches the highest point. It reaches the highest point, average product. Now, margin product increasing at an increasing rate. Thus, TP means total product, average product, all are increasing in this stage. Hence, this stage is known as increasing return. The second stage here. Second stage, total product continues increasing at the diminishing rate until it reaches its maximum point at the end of this stage. End of this stage means when MP will be 0, this will be maximum. This is the end of the second stage. Both average product and marginal product diminishes here. AP and MP both diminishing, but both are positive. At the end of this stage, MP becomes 0. This is margin product becomes 0. When total product is maximum, when total production maximum. AP shows a steady decline. AP also, there is a marginal decline throughout this stage. As both AP and MP decline, this stage is known as diminishing marginal return. This stage is known as the diminishing marginal returns. Now let us discuss about the third stage. In the third stage, total product decline. Total product declines. AP shows steady, simply there is small decline, but never becomes zero. MP become negative. MP become negative. It goes below the x-axis. Hence, the third stage is known as negative margin return, negative return stage. Third stage. So why does the variable proportion operate? The law of variable proportion operates on account of the following reason. First, imperfect substitute. There is a limit to extent to which one factor can be substituted for another. In other words, two factors are not perfectly substitute. That's why the law of variable proportion operate. Second, scarcity of factor of production. Output can be increased only by increasing the variable factors. In short run, certain inputs like land, capital are scarce. This leads to diminishing marginal productivity of the factor variable. Variable factors. Third, economies and diseconomies of scale. Economies of scale means there is an increase in output. Economies of scale means cost is decreasing. But diminishing, and diseconomies means now cost is increasing and output is decreasing as compared to input. So internal and external economies of large scale of production are available as the production expanded. Therefore, average cost goes on diminishing, but this continues only up to a certain stage. Fourth, specialization. The stage of diminishing returns comes into operate when the limit of maximum degree of specialization reaches. This stage emerges when the fixed factor become more and more scarce in relation to variable factor, thereby giving less and less support to the later. That's why this law of variable proportion operate. Now let us discuss the importance of law of variable proportion. Why the law of variable proportion? Why we are discussing this law? What is the relevance of this law in economics? This law of variable proportion is one of the most fundamental law of economics. Already I have stated with you that law of variable proportion is one of the fundamental law in economics. The law of variable proportion applicable not only in agriculture. Earlier it was applicable only agriculture, where we assume that labor is only the variable factor, but now it also applicable in other constructive industries like mining, fishing, etc. Even the secondary and tertiary sector, it is equally applicable. Now, Malthus' theory of population based on the law of variable proportion. Malthus has given the very important theory, which is theory of clerks, theory of population, which is based on, I will not discuss in detail, but this theory is based on the law of variable proportion. Even the Ricardian theory of rent is also based on the law of variable proportion. Ricardian theory we'll discuss in coming lecture. That's in our curriculum. The marginal productivity theory we'll also discuss in coming lecture of the distribution, also based on this law. The marginal productivity theory of distribution is also based on this law of variable proportion. And even this law can be used to estimate the optimum proportion of the factor of production or factors of producers. This law also important in the price determination. What should be the optimum price? The law also helpful to in explaining the presence of disguised employment. How can we overcome? Disguised employment means where the productivity of labor is near about zero. The more than requirement, the labor are employed. And this is most common in agriculture sector where we have the disguised type of employment exist. And now the law of variable proportion analyze the behavior of output. Now let's discuss the next important laws, that is law of return to scale. Laws of return to scale. Two laws we were discussing. One is the law of variable proportion and second laws of returns to scale. Law of returns to scale, where whole scale can be changed in the, and this will applicable in the long run, where all factor of production are variable. There's nothing fixed or constant. The law of variable proportion analyze the behavior of output when one input or factor is variable and other factors are held to be constant. Thus, the law of variable applicable in the short run. But in the long run, all factor of production are variable. When all factors of production are changed in the same proportion, the behavior of output is analyzed with the help of return to scale. When all factor of production are variable or varies, then laws of return to scale is applicable. Now let us discuss in detail. The return to scale is a factor that studies in the long run. Return to scale refers to the responsiveness of the total product when all inputs are changed proportionately. When all factor of production are proportionately changed, then what will happen in the output we'll discuss with the help of these laws of return to scale. Return to scale can be increasing, there can be increasing return to scale, constant return to scale, decreasing return to scale. How the output change if all inputs are increased by the equal proportion. Now let us, the scale refers to the long run situation. Scales refer to the long run situation where all inputs are changed in the same proportion, that is changing, for example, capital and labor together proportionately. When whole, the scale will change. It refers to the situation in the long run when all inputs, say labor and capital, are changed in the same proportion or proportionately, then what will happen? So constant return to scale. The rate at which the factors of production, all factor of production, change, if the output remain constant, there is no change, is called constant return to scale. In this case, change in outputs, so change in inputs results the proportional change in output. The rate at which input change, for say if the 5% change in input, output will also change equal proportionate, that is 5% change in output, that can be constant return to scale. Whereas increasing return to scale, when a rise in input results more than proportional increase in output, it is known as increasing return to scale. Say if you increase the 5% input, output will be 7 or 8 or 9%, that is means there is an increasing return to scale. The rate at which input increases, output will increase more than that rate. We can say this is increasing returns to scale. And decreasing means the rate at which inputs increases, output will increase less than that rate. If input increase say 5%, but output increase only 2% or 1%, that is known as the decreasing return to scale. When increase in all the input results less than proportional increase in output, it is known decreasing return to scale. Decreasing return to scale. See, this diagram. On the x-axis we have scale of input. On the y-axis we have marginal products. And here up to 3 is the increasing returns. When the input increases, scale of inputs change, the output change at the increasing rate. It is increasing the rate. But here there's no, when we change the scale of inputs, output remain constant, then we can see this constant return to scale. Whereas diminishing marginal or diminishing returns means as inputs changed, the marginal diminishing, the returns are diminishing. Here diminishing return to scale. So this will be affecting due to specialization and division of labor. Specialization and division of labor. Second, degree, you can say large scale of operations, due to large scale of operation. And third, the management efficiency from poorer communications or maybe too great span of control will affect the return to scale. Now let us sum up this whole module lecture. A detailed study is made about the concept of production in this module. And now we are able to know production is nothing but transformation of input into output. When we convert raw material into finished goods, means output or production. Raw material into finished good, or transformation of input into output. Or we have discussed that creation of utility. When we are able to create the utility, value creation of a product can be called production in economics. The initial proportion of this module, we have explained the meaning, factors and characteristics of production. We have also discussed the production function and its uses. Production function is the relationship between input and output. And more precisely, it is the technical relationship between input and output. And when input changes, output will also change. And we have also discussed that inputs are independent factors, whereas the output depend on input. Now the production function state maximum quantity of output which can be produced from any selected combination of input. Maximum quantity of output which can be produced from any selected combination of input. So even we have also studied the diminishing returns to scale of or law of variable proportion. Law of variable proportions, as we have stated, that this will applicable in short period. Short period we mean when some factor of production, say labor, only labor is variable, whereas other factors like capital is fixed. Then if we increase the variable factor, say labor, output will increase at increasing rate in the beginning stage of, and after some time it will reach its maximum point and then start decreasing. When total output is increasing, we have studied average product and marginal product is also increasing up to a certain limit. Marginal product reach its maximum point and start decreasing, but the average product still increasing. And when marginal product is equal to average product, intersection of marginal product and average product, that is the point of equilibrium, where the end of the first stage we have discussed in this law, 3 stages of law, where we have stated that first stage is irrational stage, means producer should not produce in the first stage, producer must produce or stay in the second stage, where no doubt marginal product decreasing, average product decreasing, but the total product is still increasing, and it is reach its maximum point. And the third stage, that it start decreasing with the increase of input. And we have also discussed in detail the laws of return to scale. Law of return to scale applicable in the long run, where all factors of production are variable, including capital or other factors. They are all variable. There is nothing constant. Return to scale has been discussed in this session, and we are able to know that the return to scale refers to the responsibleness of the total product when all inputs are changed proportionately. There are increasing return to scale. The proportion at which change the input output will increase more than that proportion. We can say increasing return to scale. The proportion at which input changes, output changes equal proportion, then we can say the constant return to scale. And the proportion at which input changes, output start decreasing, that we can say the decreasing return to scale. Increasing, decreasing, and constant return to scale. So with this, thank you very much.